crunchy, crunchy plastic.
This is the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Your hosts are Seth Jacobson and Patrick Heiler.
Chapter 52. In Search of a Remedy. And our symbols, the harp. Slumped on the stool in the Gleeman's room, Matt grimaced as Tom coughed again. How are we going to keep looking if he's so bloody sick he can't walk? He was ashamed as soon as he thought it. Tom had been as assiduous in searching as he had, pushing himself day and night. When he had to know, Matt had been so absorbed in his hunt that he had paid too little attention to Tom's coughing. The change from the constant rain to steamy heat had not helped it. Come on, Tom, he said. Lopar says there's a wise woman not far away. That is what they call a wisdom here, a wise woman. Wouldn't I need like that? I do not need any foul-tasting concoctions poured down my throat, boy. Tom stuffed a fist through his mustaches in a vain attempt to stop his hacking. You go ahead looking. Just give me a few hours on my bed, and I'll join you. The racking wheezes doubled him over till his head was almost on his knees.
It's just a flesh wound.
I'm fine.
I'm fine. Nothing wrong. But okay, so by the way, Lopar is this guy's name?
Yeah.
Talk about reusing a word. So it's I didn't notice this before. I've never noticed
this
this
it
on any
immediately.
of my other rereads.
I was like, that's weird. Isn't
But I
that
was
the
like-
giant scaled cat?
Yeah, that's a Shan-Chan beast. It's a reused word.
Oh, it's also apparently a place in Croatia. Lopar resemble large, hairless bears with thick, reddish-brown skin instead of fur and no muzzles. If a Lopar rears onto its hind legs, it can stand as much as 10 feet tall.
Also, innkeeper. So Lopar is the guy who sent Matt towards the wise one.
Yeah,
The wisdom here, as he says.
right. Wise woman. And we just get a bit of Matt's perspective after that, basically thinking about how Matt had been slowly getting sicker and sicker, and he's finally, just not even... Tom won't accept any help, but Matt's just, not letting him make that decision anymore.
The pattern's go see the wise woman.
Yeah, I also noticed that Tom's, really sick, and no one around him gets sick.
No.
It's just, this totally random thing.
I mean, honestly, it's probably pneumonia. He's an old man. He's got fluid in his lungs. It's a serious sickness.
They have been sleeping outdoors.
Yeah, under the rain.
Sometimes.
He's probably got pneumonia going on, right? Which is not really a contagious thing. It's just because it's a symptom more than it's a disease.
Yeah, just a really bad cough.
Right. And fluid in your lungs. And so he needs to, lay down and be warm and take a medicine and let his lungs clear out. And he has to go see the medicine woman. And the pattern is just first Matt gets off the boat and it goes, flash of lightning, here's the inn where the girls are, and
Pointing.
there goes Rand.
God's hand pointing.
Right. And now it's okay, fine. That wasn't a big enough clue. I'm going to make him sick until you have to take him to go see her.
It's a compelling argument. Ignoring the white-haired man's protests, he pulled Tom to his feet. He was shocked at how much of the Gleeman's weight he had to support. Despite the damp heat, Tom insisted on wearing his patch-covered cloak. Matt had his own cloak unbuttoned completely.
Yeah, pride's going to kill that man.
Yeah, I was wondering. I mean, when I first read that, I was like, why does he need the cloak? Is, important stuff hidden in there or something? And then I was like, I think he's just really sick.
Yeah.
He's just that sick when you're, sweating, but you still don't want to take the blanket off,
Yeah, he has a
Cold
fever.
and sweating, yeah. The innkeeper had given him simple directions. He had thought from the directions that the innkeeper gave him that they must have passed the wise woman's house on their way up from the dock the first night. And they did.
They did, yes. So he's just, again, going back and saying, hey, remember when I showed you that building in a flash of lightning?
Yeah.
It was kind of important. And so this is about 3 hours after the girls have been abducted. They were just here and taken by the Black Ajah. And so Mother Gwenna pops out, having just dealt with that and feeling a ton of guilt.
She's like, who are you? What do you want?
And just sort of having given up a little bit. I mean, that's sort of joined the ranks of the people who have been beaten down for a little while anyway.
Yeah. I kind of like that RJ made this scene awkward. I'm not exactly sure why I enjoy that so much, but just that Matt is like half lost and uncomfortable, and he knocks on the wrong door.
The front door?
Yeah, the
Rather
one that
than
nobody
back.
ever uses. And if you've ever like been in a house where people just like only use the side door or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
it starts to be like when someone knocks on the front door, you're like, who the hell is that? Like, who would do that?
Right,
You know?
right. And he was even told to go to the back door.
Yeah, he just doesn't listen.
He just doesn't listen, which is typical Matt.
She studied them a moment, seemed to listen to Tom's wheezes, then sighed. I suppose I can still do that at least. You might as well come in. She swung the door open, was already plodding toward the back of the house before Matt moved. Her accent sounded so much like the Amerlin's that he shivered, but he followed, all but carrying Tom. I feel like I pointed this out recently when we met Mother Gwenna, but Gwenna and Swan are probably fairly close in age, and they grew up in the same neighborhood.
Right.
There's like a chance that they met. I think Swan's probably a little younger. No one ever tells us how old Mother Gwenna is, but
Yeah, we don't know exactly.
old enough that she has daughters that are recently married.
And, assuming the generational age of 20.
And Swan's like mid-40s.
Right. It seems kind of perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She just doesn't look old and fat because she's slowed.
You mean
Like
Suan.
Mother Gwenna is like,
Yeah. Well,
all
Mother
the-
Gwenna's not fat.
there is that kind of illusion later where it's like, oh, I thought she was just fat under there, but she,
She's wearing a dress that's
puts
like
Tom
big.
in a headlock,
She's like Master Luhan. I think even Tom even says, you should be a blacksmith, woman.
Yeah.
So she's pretty strong. And I noticed this, he comments on the accent a few times, and that's what leads him to find out about the girls.
Yeah.
Because he's commenting on her accent, and then she...
Somewhere in there, before they have that
Yeah.
conversation, Matt's just like, I wonder why she's got 3 fine horses sitting in the yard.
Right. Yeah.
Surprised she has any.
Where did they come from? It's like, are you blind, Matt? Really? You're looking for 3 girls with 3 fine horses, and they're not...
Right.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. And the wise woman makes Tom drink a thick tea, it seems like, a thick, terrible tasting tea, and rub some, vapor rub on his chest.
Basically.
Except, yeah.
I imagine a bit of an antibiotic and something to help him clear the gunk out of his lungs.
And, breathe.
Like Vicks Vapor Rub
Open
type
up
thing.
your...
Yeah. Open up the pathways, let the air in.
I knew a woman once who talked like you, he said. All fish and nets and things. Sounded like you, too. The same accent, I mean. I suppose she's Taryn. Perhaps. The gray-haired woman suddenly sounded tired again, and she kept staring at the floor. I knew some girls with the sound of your speech on their tongues, too. 2 of them had it anyway. She sighed heavily. Matt felt his scalp prickle. My luck can't be this good.
Yes, it can.
But he would not bet a copper on 2 other women with 2 Rivers accents just happening to be in tier. 3 girls. Young women? Named Egwene and Nynaeve and Elaine? That one has hair like the sun and blue eyes. She frowned at him. Those were not the names they gave, she said slowly. Yet I suspected they did not give me their true names. But they had their reasons, I thought. And she goes on a little. But they realized that they're the same person. Or the same people, I should say.
She'd go on, she describes the 3 women. 3 pretty women as different from one another as they could be. I like that line for some reason. This is sort of these 3 very, very different looking girls. Although, don't Nynaeve and Egwene look kind of similar? They're both short, dark women in terms of eyes and hair.
I always imagined it that way. I just imagined Nynaeve as the bigger woman. Just as, a little taller, a little... I imagine Nynaeve is altogether more petite. Just
You mean Egwene?
in all proportions. Oh, yeah. I mean, Egwene. Just a little more petite than Nynaeve. I don't remember what the actual numbers are. But Nynaeve just a little bit bigger portioned.
Yeah. But just because they come from the same village, I imagine they both have that Manetheren look to them.
Yeah. It would make sense that they at least had, the same color hair and eyes,
Mm-hmm. Maybe even, a similar facial structure, just because, they're from the same
2,000
genetic
years
pool.
of isolation.
Yeah. It is funny to picture Nynaeve as a very, very small woman.
Yeah, people in Discord are talking about how they all pictured Nynaeve as small. I mean, she has such a big personality. I guess it's hard for me to picture her as small, but I don't picture her as big either. Just Egwene as the smaller one. Well, At first, Mother Gwenna, like I was saying before, won't tell Matt what happened or where they are because she's afraid. And Matt badgers her for a while and then starts offering her wild sums of money, essentially.
Which she says no to.
Yeah.
But once he swears an oath, she, like, studies him for a while and is like, I trust you to hold to your oath. And I wonder if that had something to do with just, like, the girls and holding the way they spoke. And the fact that she assumes that they sort of have the same honor code, or if it's just her sizing him up as an individual and being like, yeah, I think this guy keeps his word.
I don't know. Could be a bit of the Taverand as well.
That is true. She could say something she never otherwise would have, or rarely otherwise would have said.
Yeah.
Rand uses that trick all the time to get information. Matt, not so much, but this could be an example of it.
Yeah. You are too late, Matrim Coffin. Too late by nearly 3 hours. They have been taken to the stone, to the High Lord Salmon. The High Lord Salmon sent for them. She shook her head in worried puzzlement. He sent women who could channel. And that starts another little conversation.
Where he's like, oh, those are her friends. And she's like, no.
I don't think so, buddy.
You don't get beat
beat
up
the
like
shit out of
this.
her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your friends don't treat you that way. And they fought to escape.
Yeah.
You don't fight to escape your friends. And Aes Sedai hurting them, like, do you think Matt puzzles out that it's Black Aja at that point?
I don't think he knows enough about any of that to puzzle anything out.
I mean, he at least knows that Aes Sedai could be a threat.
Oh, yeah. He knows to steer clear of anyone who can channel, basically, is kind of how he tries to play it.
Mm-hmm.
He's just always on edge. It seems you care for them. One of them, at least, I suppose it is. I'm sorry, Matt Coffin. Don't be, he told her. At least I know where they are now. All I have to do is get them out. He fished out his last 2 Andorran gold crowns and pressed them into her hand. For Tom's medicines, and for letting me know about the girls. On impulse, he gave her a quick kiss on the cheek and a grin. And that's for me. Get them out, you say. Just like that. Out of the stone.
Yeah, if there's anyone who could do it, it would be Matt.
Yeah, skipping ahead a little bit. If you do get those girls out, whichever of them you have your eye on will have a hard time training you to make you fit to be let inside. Very reminiscent of Nynaeve.
Yeah, you have to train a good husband.
Yeah.
That's what it boils down to. Train them to take their boots off.
And then Matt pawns Tom off on her.
I love that scene. Just Tom being, what? No, I'm coming back.
You can take care of him for a while.
Yeah, and she's like,
You
sure.
can't do this. Pretty irate.
There's a great scene in Buffy. You're getting your nightly Buffy reference here, where she's in the hospital and there's a patient going nuts from the influence of Gloria. And he goes to sit up and flail, and she, like, the doctor's like, I need some help over here. And Buffy just, like, pushes him back down. He's like, never mind. And I imagine the exact same thing with Mother Gwenna here and Tom. Just, like, him struggling. And thump. Get back in bed. You're not going anywhere.
Matt grinned at the white-haired man. I have enjoyed knowing you, Tom. As he hurried out into the street, he found himself wondering why he had said that. He isn't going to bloody die. That woman will keep him alive if she has to drag him kicking and screaming out of his grave by his mustaches. Yes, but who is going to keep me alive? Ahead of him, the Stone of Tyr loomed over the city, impregnable, a fortress besieged 100 times, a stone on which 100 armies had broken their teeth, and he had to get inside somehow, and bring out 3 women, somehow. With a laugh that made even the sullen folk in the street look at him, he headed back toward the White Crescent, uncaring of mud or the damp heat. He could feel the dice tumbling inside his head.
He could feel the dice tumbling inside of his head. I think that's the first time we get that official dice in his head.
I think so.
just a cook at a different little burger place, pub, basically.
Job is job.
Yep. But it's nice. It's small. I have some control.
Yeah, I wondered if you would like that better, because I know I do, to be honest.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Like, I like being alone in the bar on Monday nights.
Because then you can just work. You don't have to worry about socializing as well all the time.
Yeah, and just
like you're in control. I hate it when
to
like
have
people
my own
move.
task to work
Yes,
on.
exactly. Like people will like move stuff that I'm working on, or like interrupt my flow, or like.
It's somehow satisfying to me too to like do a thing entirely by myself.
Totally.
I like it.
Robert Jordan definitely like was this oral storyteller long before he became an author, because that was a tradition in his family.
That's cool. I always thought that was a cool skill.
Oral storytelling, definitely.
Yeah. I've always been fascinated by that.
I'm pointing at the microphone saying, yes, we may have a fascination with oral storytelling.
I don't know when I'll ever get around to it, but I'd really like to revive that old project from a long time ago that I was working on and just kind of dropped for 6 months or however long it's been.
We should also think about doing something with the audiobooks again.
I know.
Time, yeah, the to-do list is hard, especially with social lives. That's why I don't have one, but Patrick here.
I had a few ideas, Sam, but one of them was a storytelling type podcast.
But we do have 2 physical microphones. Oh, yeah, I think I switched the microphones at one point because Patrick naturally has a louder voice, so I gave him the quieter microphone.
That's why it's switched.
Yeah.
But do you just fix that in editing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or I don't. John does.
Gotcha.
And then I go along with it. But if I look at the signals before they get processed, they're significantly different in volume. And that's just a hardware difference.
We should try to upgrade. It's been a while. It's been a year and a half.
Yeah, I mean, we've definitely gotten use out of these, but I'm not sure that we could get much better without spending way more money.
That's what I've always thought. That I see, like, I feel like the quality of our audio, the majority of the what we could fix, it wouldn't be fixed by new microphones. Is basically what I'm getting at.
Agreed. Just one new microphone might let us balance the volume better. Part of what we do and what makes us sound good is we're stupidly simple. Is I use the converters in the microphones as the the analog to digital converters, and then it just puts it over the USB into my computer. So, if you're truly, truly concerned about getting the top quality microphone you can have, you take your signal, you send it through an amplifier, you keep it analog all the way to the computer, and then you use the more powerful computer to convert that analog signal to digital, and you can get a slightly higher quality, in theory, signal. But the amount of equipment that takes usually ends up meaning that there's a problem somewhere in there. Yeah, and you have to do that in we could also use more omnidirectional mics to pick up better sound, but then we would have to be in a completely soundproof room.
I've had that thought as well, that actually increasing the quality of the recording at the microphone might actually give us problems in the long run.
Right.
As far as like picking up the radiator clicking in the background and shit like that,
No, these are very directional microphones.
Yeah.
They are designed to be pointed at your face and not pick up things that are outside.
I cannot, since I woke up this morning, just no air has passed through. You haven't noticed? Good.
Timber moves around a little too much to wire them up. I'd have to get like a
GoPro,
like a wireless mic maybe, or
like a helmet with a mic strapped to it.
One of those wireless gaming ones with the headphones and the mic that comes around front.
That would never work. Because then it'd also have to be like too far enough from his mouth that he couldn't chew it or lick it, and that seems unlikely if it's in front of his face. Crunchy plastic.
I mean, I guess what we could do is get that replacement mic and just have the third one down here pointed at him.
No, it would just be too much irrelevant stuff. I do and have supported, though, recording some clips of him, or clips that you probably already have somewhere, and just making it a part of the podcast, like some part of the intro or outro. Jules listens to all of the podcast My Favorite Murder. I'm sure a bunch of you have heard of it. It's like a really huge true crime one, and there's a cat in it. They just like record in one of their apartments or something. It's just, and he's like a character on the show, you know. I listen sometimes with her, sometimes I'll listen alone. It's pretty good. It's not quite up my alley, but oh, and the outro is her talking to her cat and the cat meowing at her.
Nice.
At least for the last like 5 or 10 episodes.
Yeah, I just don't want to put a dog barking. I don't know. That seems like not the right noise to have on a podcast.
Yeah. We could like ask Timber a question and then play him barking in response. Type deal. What you could ask him, like, you know.
I feel like if I could get him whining, I could get him barking, I could get him like
Timber, what
growling.
do we say to the dark one?
Yeah. Roar, roar, roar.
Timber, what do we say on the last day?
Thank you for listening to the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Rate us in the Apple Podcast app or support us on Patreon. Is that good enough?